Wentz steps up. Here comes the rush. He is going deep, and it is caught. And in for a touchdown, Deshaun Jackson.
Give the people what they want.
Well, the bad news is the Eagles lost a football game. The good news is we can all stop pretending like this is a playoff team.
Yeah, and, you know, on the one hand, I think it would have been good for them to get experience. It would have been good for the young players to play in that environment, to be in a playoff game. But on the other hand, yeah, it felt cheap, like just even having that conversation about if this happens. Usually when you're 10-5, you're talking playoff scenarios, not when you're 4-9-1. So I think as far as the overall big picture, it's probably better for this team to not be in the playoffs. I think when Jeff Lurie sits back and makes his evaluations of everybody, it's important that, that fool's gold isn't tempting him, because it has in the past. This is not a playoff team, and I think we all saw why.
Yeah, we certainly did. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast, brought to you by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. The Eagles lose 37-17 to the Cowboys, who tacked on a late touchdown there at the end. The Eagles had a chance in this game. Things were lining up for them. Washington got behind Carolina right away. Carolina pretty much led that entire way. The Eagles basically they controlled their own destiny really from an early part of that game, and they started off strong, and then it all collapsed. And we're going to get into that game specifically. We're going to talk about the offense, the defense, Jalen Hurts. We'll update where their draft pick is right now, because they did solidify a top 10 draft pick, but they can move up and down quite a bit depending on what happens next week. But I think we can't go too micro here, because this is one loss, but it's a loss in a really miserable season. This is a double-digit loss team now, and they've played like it for a lot of this season. Rube, it's amazing. Like, you sit back, and I think there was some fool's gold even the last 2 years, and they kind of rallied late, and this team couldn't do it. But how did we get here?
A lot of bad players. I think bad coaching, bad players. It's no secret. I think it's just whatever magic they had, both Doug and Howie in 2017, just disappeared. And I think you can point to a whole bunch of different things. And certainly the injuries it's an unbelievable number of injuries for 3 years in a row now. I don't think anybody has any clue why. They changed doctors, they changed trainers, and it keeps happening. But
it seems to happen at like really specific position groups at the same time.
Yeah.
Like debilitating injuries there, where you end up with guys who don't belong on teams out there.
Yeah. And certainly that's a factor, but they're just not good enough. And I think the one thing I look at is, you mentioned the fool's gold thing. They were 4-6 after 10 games in 2018. They were 5-7 after 12 games last year. And they were obviously 4-9-1 this year coming into this game. And the last 2 years, they won some games at the end, and everyone talked about overcoming adversity and backs against the wall. And you can't win like that. You can't. Their composite record for the first 12 games of the last 3 years is 14-21-1. Well, you're not going to win anything like that. And that's who they are. Now, in 2018, they got hot at the end with Nick, and they won some games, and they won a playoff game in Chicago, and played really competitive in New Orleans. And last year they got in the playoffs, and Carson got hurt. But I mean, when you look at the big picture, since the Super Bowl, this is a losing team. They're now one game under 500 since the Super Bowl, and that's who they are. And I keep coming back to that. You go from a Super Bowl to a playoff win to in the playoffs to 10 losses for only the fifth time in the last 30 years, by the way. This team, this franchise is rarely this bad. And I think the whole playoff thing and the division kind of masked just how bad this team is. They're 4-10-1. This is a team that I believe, as of now, the Jaguars and Jets are the only teams with fewer wins in them, I believe.
Yeah.
There's a few teams with 4, but mean, they're one of the worst teams in the league. And I think we kind of lost sight of that. I don't mean we, me and you, but I think just generally we lost sight of that because, Jalen Hurts came in and things changed and people got more excited about the team. And they beat New Orleans, which is a great win. And, but every year it's the same old story, just bad starts and then try to make up for all your season's issues at the end in a bad division. But you know what? They're now in last place in the worst division in history. And, I don't know about the Giants. I don't know what Washington's going to do at quarterback. Who knows what's going to happen with Dak. But, there was a stretch there where you kind of felt like, they won the Super Bowl in 2017. They won a division last year. You kind of felt like they were the class of the division. Certainly don't feel that way now.
Yeah, and coming into this year, you looked at it and said, well, they have some stability. The other teams have new head coaches, but the Eagles bring back their head coach, their quarterback, who had just finished off playing at a really high level the previous year. Maybe we should have seen this coming because there has been a regression. Maybe we had a blind spot. But even if there was some regret, I never expected this. You're in the class with those terrible. You're in the Jets and Jaguars and Bengals. You're right there with those teams, and it's inexcusable, and that's surprising to me. If you were to tell me this team would finish with 7 or 8 wins, hey, that's not good, but that wouldn't have shocked me. This shocks me. 4-win team. Maybe they win 5 next week, but
yeah,
you're better off if you don't.
I just did a FIP. I said, yeah, no. Yeah, I agree. I think I picked them 9-7, and I was thinking I'm being a little pessimistic here. If Carson can stay healthy, blah blah blah. Miles is going to be an elite running back, and Doug is. I think until this year we kind of looked at Doug as a Super Bowl coach, where now we kind of don't look at him. He'll always be that, but we don't kind of look at him the same way because he's just been awful this year. He's been terrible. He's had an awful year. He just makes bad decisions at the wrong times, and it's cost them wins. I still can't believe they threw that 4th down pass to that tight end. I don't even remember his name. Hassan Red. What was his name? The guy. It was the only snap he's ever played in the NFL, and it was
Hakeem Butler.
Hakeem Butler. Yeah. Thank you.
I thought you were joking that you didn't remember Zach Ertz's name. I thought you were talking about the play today.
No, it was the 4th down. I think it was the Giants game. They ended up winning the first Giants game, but be that as it may, I think Doug's been awful this year. I just think he's been terrible. Obviously Carson is a huge part of the whole big picture, but certainly not the entire thing. I never saw it coming either, and they got a lot of work to do. They just don't have enough good players. I think sometimes there's just so many different ways of looking at it and breaking it down, and whose fault is it, and they just don't have enough good players. Yeah,
and I think a lot of times we get caught in this blame game, and it becomes one or the other. Tonight during this game, I saw a lot of the Eagles give up 500 yards, and you have a lot of people saying, oh, I guess it's Carson's fault. Well, it's like they can be a bad team, and Carson also contributed to that when he was on the field. Like, all those things are true. And look, Jeff Lurie is one who has to figure out how to assign the blame and what he does to correct it. Those are his decisions, and we're going to try to get in his mindset and do all those things. But I think you're really doing a disservice to yourself, honestly, if you're sitting there saying it's all this or it's all that, because it isn't one thing. It really isn't with this team. It's coaching, it's personnel, it's players. It's so much that goes into being this bad. You're not this bad because one aspect of your team sucks. That's not the way it works.
It is a valid part of the equation, certainly. I think they would have more than 4 wins if they had, a completely healthy, Lane and Rodney, and Rodney just missed the one game, but it's been all year. But
another part of that, and part of the injuries though, is also having talent, because some of their starter, let's look at the cornerback position, right? Avonte Maddox is your CB2. Avonte Maddox should be a backup. you should have a better CB2 so that when your CB2 gets hurt, then Avonte Maddox is in. Not now you're starting with Avonte Maddox and now
Right.
you're at Michael Jacquet. Like, because if the top end talent isn't there, then your backups aren't going to be as good because your top tier talent are backup level players.
Yeah. No, that's completely true. If I had to assign blame for the whole mess, I would start with Howie. Then I'd go to Doug, and then I'd go to everyone else, with Carson having a big part of it. But that's what makes this, such a tricky offseason for Jeff Lurie. Is like you said, there's no one, there's no one thing that has a monopoly on why this team is 4-10-1. I just can't believe they're 4-10-1. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the worst Eagles teams ever. Each star, being in the playoff hunt or not. And when it was 14-3 and Carolina's up 20-3 or whatever it was, I'm thinking, man, at home, wild card game, they might have a shot. You start thinking, they're going to be a tough out for somebody. Next thing you know, it's like 50-12. But yeah, I think organizationally they're better off just, what, we suck. Let's just own up to it and try to figure out why.
Yeah, and I really don't know the answer to a lot of the questions, and that's the problem because even like in this game, it frustrates me sometimes to hear the players say, "We're right there. We just made mistakes." But in this game, like, there were a lot of those situations. I mean, the false starts were, what was it, 5 or 6 false starts?
Small starts.
I mean, the penalties in this game, and sometimes I feel like the penalties are almost a cop-out answer for why a team doesn't win in certain cases, because it's easy to say, we screwed up this one thing, and that's what. But in this game, like, the penalties were a big deal. It really hurt them. It's not the only thing that went wrong, but that's got to be frustrating for Doug Pederson, coaching with his job on the line, because penalties kind of reflect on coaching. But if Matt Pryor keeps jumping off, like, he all these false starts, what do you do? I don't know. That's a tough spot.
Yeah, and then, to play devil's advocate, Doug's telling Jeff, well, we had Lane, and then we had Jack Driscoll, and Matt's our third. And if JP didn't get hurt, we'd have Malata at right tackle. I mean, he's our 4th right tackle, so, which is an excuse. But it is true. I mean, Lane Johnson's not going to commit all those penalties if he's healthy, and he's the real Lane Johnson that we know. So there's a lot to balance out there. I mean,
yeah,
the guys I was just going to say, the guys like Jacquet and Matt Pryor, the guys who stunk it up tonight, they wouldn't have been playing if this team was healthy. But they also wouldn't have been playing if they had better players.
Yeah, and that's I think they go hand in hand, because if you're allowed to hit on those guys, right? You're allowed to hit on 6th-round picks and undrafted guys, but I mean, if you have a better CB2, then it doesn't. You know what I mean? Then
if Sidney Jones had panned out, the second round 3 years ago, didn't pan out. He's not here. He would have been starting. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
In this game, the Eagles came out so hot on offense. I mean, that first drive, they just ran it down the Cowboys' throats. I mean, they did exactly what we thought they could do to this Cowboys team. And then the second drive, he just tosses it up to Deshaun Jackson, and it looks like Deshaun of old. And that was it. I mean, that was pretty much it offensively.
Yeah, I mean, they did move the ball. I mean, they had like 477 yards of offense, but I mean, they got into Dallas territory, I think, 5 times without scoring. But turnovers and penalties, especially in the fourth quarter. And I mean, it's not like a broken record, but the way Doug uses Miles makes no sense. Like, Miles had today, I think it was 6 carries on the first. It's like the second game, he's had more carries on the first drive than the rest of the game combined. It's like it's this all or nothing thing. We're just going to run every play, and then we're just not going to run at all. And this was not a 20-point game the whole way. This is a 1-possession game. It was a 2-possession game. 2-possession game in the second quarter, or even in the third quarter, you run your offense. You don't chuck it every snap with a 22-year-old quarterback making his third career start against a team that really pressures pretty well. And
as your defense is getting shredded too, and your defense can use that breather if you can execute some long drives.
If I'm Miles Sanders, I'm just like, you know what? Trade me. I can't tell. Like, he's so talented. And what did he finish with? 14, 15 carries. He had 6 in the first quarter. I think 5 on the first drive, and 7 or 8 the rest of the game. It was
good to see them work in Jordan Howard, though.
Like, why? Why do you want to? This is a guy. Yeah, it just makes no sense. Makes no sense. Jordan Howard. So he's
a guy who also hasn't worked with Jalen Hurts. So, like, that's a big part of all the option plays. You need that cohesion, and they didn't have it, and it was obvious. That didn't make any sense. And you're right. I mean,
he reminds me of when we brought Jay Ajayi at the was it actually last year?
Yeah,
and he just had nothing left. I mean, Jordan Howard's younger, and doesn't have that degenerative knee injury, but it's like, you just like, why is he here? What's he doing here?
Well, you have
if you want to give another
your most explosive player on your offense, and you're taking away touches.
Yeah, I can see if you had like a Dalvin Cook, like 27 carries, and you want to give him a blow. We get Boston Scott in there, who has a little more punch than Jordan Howard at this point, but it's not like Miles needed a break. The guy's just so underutilized. It's criminal. It's just awful.
Yeah, it's a shame. He's their most explosive player. And 15 carries is just, it's not enough. I don't know. It's the same thing. I mean, it feels like every time we talk to Miles Sanders, like, so you didn't get used very much today, but like he'll never complain. And I respect him for that. But behind closed doors, he's got to be like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you saw what I did on that first drive. Like, you saw what we could do running the ball, and I just don't get carries after that.
Yeah, it's just not fair to Jalen Hurts. I think this is – you got Matt Pryor at right tackle, and you're chucking the ball snap after snap in a 10-point game. And Hurts was under so much pressure. He got hit a couple times, got sacked a couple times. It was really unfair to put him in that position. And, all the Carson apologists are tweeting like, oh, they couldn't wait till he threw a couple interceptions. They couldn't wait so they could gloat about, how bad Hurts is. The guy threw like 30 straight passes, and they were down 20 points with a minute left. He's just trying to make a play on fourth down or with third down, whatever, third and long, and he gets picked off. I mean, he's in his third career start. I thought Doug really did him a disservice with the game plan. I thought early on, it was great, mixing it up, balanced, pressure off Jalen, and then it's just, and he does it time after time after time, and we've been saying this all year, and it's awful. He just abandons the run game after game, and it's not fair to Miles. It's not fair to Jalen.
Yeah, and I mean, the receivers, I don't know what they have, but let's just say Jalen Reagor's rookie season has not gone to plan, and that doesn't mean he'll never be a good player, but I expected more from him at this point. And they don't really have – I mean, Travis Fulgham has obviously come back down to earth, and he's crashed down to earth. Quez Watkins had a couple catches. I mean, but they don't –
He looks the last couple of weeks, he's their best wide receiver.
Yeah, that's not good.
Like, it's gone from one guy to the other, like each, but Reagor, I thought that the one play in the end zone, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was overthrown a little bit, but I thought he could have at least – I think he just was too late jumping. I never did see a replay. But the ball was almost by him, and he goes up to try to catch it. I don't know if he would have had a shot at it. He just seems –
It seems like he doesn't have great spatial awareness.
He doesn't have really great instincts about, and I hate to bring this as a terrible comparison, but it's actually not, because we're talking about the last two Eagles wide receiver first-round picks. But Nelly on that deep ball last night, you just saw how instinctively he shed like the D-backs with he cut inside, and then he cut back outside, and was untouched. I mean, just to have that instinct of where to cut, when to cut, where the would-be tackler is. Jalen Reagor doesn't have that. He runs into tacklers.
How about on that end of the half play?
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like he tried to find the tackler.
Yeah, he wasn't going to score, but it was almost like he was looking for.
I don't know that. I mean, I know they had some blockers downfield. It's kind of like a punt return at that point. We know he's pretty good at those when he gets the chance. Look, he probably wasn't going to score, but you at least like to see him miss, like make one guy miss. You have to make that one guy miss.
Yeah,
he ran right into him.
Jordan guy. I'm with you. He doesn't seem to. He has great speed that he doesn't seem to know how to use. Where like he could beat Greg Ward in a 40 by like 2 seconds, but Greg Ward has that ability he knows how to get open. He knows how to move around in space. He's aware of where defenders are.
And this is not saying that he's not going to be a good player. Like I don't know. It's early for that, but I think it's fair to want more from your first round pick in year one.
Yeah. Do you remember a play in a preseason game when what's his name? The fourth round running back who played in the XFL, your guy.
Humphrey.
Yeah. Humphrey. He broke free. Like I think it was just before halftime. He broke free. He's running. It was like a 40-yard run. And there was only one defender back, and he just ran right into him. That's what it reminded me of today. That's what Rager reminds me of. I would never dismiss a guy after, however many games. He's missed a bunch of games. It's been a hard year.
And it hasn't been like, I wouldn't even say a bad rookie year. I mean, he's made some plays. The production's been okay when he's been healthy.
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I think it's – I haven't seen the progression throughout the year that I expected to see.
And I think that's fair.
You expect by the end of the year he hasn't had that one breakout game. He hasn't had that one game where he's like 6 for 88, which would have been, Justin Jefferson's worst game this year, by the way. And I hate to do that, but, how can you not? I thought I'd see more. And – I mean, this is a topic for another time, but, all of a sudden you look at their wide receivers and, there's D-Jack going 81 yards, and they haven't had a wide receiver with 81 yards in a game since week 5. And who knows? I'm not ready to say. I don't think he'll be back at 10 point whatever million, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's back. I'm telling you.
They can't do that.
I'm telling you. Who's shown you anything out of these wide? You can't keep drafting guys and then, at the expense of other positions.
Yeah, but you can't bring back a 34-year-old guy who's played like 3 games.
Well, it's $6 million in dead money, so maybe I don't know. I mean, you're right. I agree, but I just. I thought we'd see development from these guys. Hightower, gets off to a good start. Now he can't even play. J-Jaw he's not even active. Rager's been disappointing. Fulgham disappeared. We're right back where we started with, and Quez, like you said, who's a 6th-round pick out of all these guys, 2 weeks in a row has made some nice plays. But I don't think he's WR1. I don't know who is. That's a topic for another day, but it's one of many. You just can't keep drafting these guys. You can't draft 3 in the first 2 rounds in 3 years when you need corners and you need edge rushers and D tackles and linebackers and safeties, and got a lot of needs. Another couple kickers maybe. At Nissan, we just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever with our most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. The choice is yours. Now get great offers across our full line at your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com.
What'd you make of Jalen Hurts today?
Yeah, I'm not going to kill him because I thought, like I said, I think Doug did him a disservice by giving up on the running game, which I've never said that before. He had 2 interceptions at the end of the game that were both he's trying to make something happen. He's trying to force it. The fumble, I don't think it was a fumble. I think his knee was down, first of all, but I don't know. There's supposedly if the ball turns a little bit before his knee's down, it's considered out. I thought he had.
If they ruled that down by contact and they reviewed it, then they probably would have kept it.
Yeah, I thought it should have been overruled, but be that as it may, he's got to be more secure with the ball. But, I saw some good things, and I still think he's delivering the ball to guys that are open. I think we have to remember it's his third start. He's 22. It's a really difficult situation. He's not even, in meetings with these guys. I thought when you look at the overall body of work since he started playing, I think it's a positive. And I thought there were some positives today. And there were some negatives too, like any young quarterback's going to have. And I can live with that. I'm not ready to anoint anybody as starter for next year. But I think he's an exciting player. He makes plays with his legs. I think the second half issues are something to look at because he hasn't made the plays in the second half that he has in the first half. And, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I think I said this when Carson got benched, like Jalen's going to play 4 games and we're just really not going to know. We're not going to know enough about him. I think you wrote a story about it. Just like, it's just not very long to evaluate a guy. If he played every game like he did against the Saints, you'd be like, all right, this guy's the starter next year. And if he played every game like he did in the second half today, be like, there's no way. But it's going to be somewhere in between. It makes it really tricky.
Yeah, and that's really where and that's the situation they're going to find themselves in, where Hurts is going to show some promise, but he's not going to do enough to be like, oh, he's the guy going forward. And then, obviously you have this monumental decision on your plate for next season, and it's not an enviable spot to be in for, let's face it, probably Howie Roseman. I don't know, maybe that'll change, but probably Howie. It's a tough thing to figure out. I don't know. I really don't know what they have in Jalen Hurts. He's done some good things. The fact that he was a little banged up in this game, and Doug brought it up, and Jalen didn't seem very happy that Doug brought it up,
right.
But that's another thing to worry about. We've seen some good things as a passer, and we've seen his ability to protect himself, but is he a good enough passer that if something happens and his legs aren't there, is he good enough?
Yeah, it's a great question. And he plays the game, I think he's really smart about getting out of bounds and not fighting for extra yards when he doesn't have to, but he's not the biggest guy, and he's playing the game in a dangerous fashion. And it's a fair point. We're talking about Carson, who's, been hurt 3 straight years at the end of the year. This is his first year he hasn't gotten hurt at the end of the year. So there's that. But there's a lot to weigh. I still think Carson's going to be the opening day quarterback next year. I think he'll be here. I think he'll be the opening day quarterback. I think they'll give him another year to figure it all out with a healthy, presumably O-line, and a healthy Deshaun and Alshon. Maybe some new coaches. I do think Carson's going to be the starter, but I think Jalen will be here as well. And it might not be ideal, but I think that's the most logical scenario.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that the prospect of screwing that up is so scary to me that I think you kind of have to go that way.
And I don't think anyone's going to offer you. No one's going to offer you a 1 for him. And
no, it would be a move to dump the salary, but you're not even really dumping the salary.
No.
So that's why it's tricky. You'd have to say that it's not a tenable situation, which I don't know if that'll be the case or not. You got anything else on Jalen? Because I want to move on to the defense. I don't want to skip over this defense because, injuries or not, they just gave up 37 points and 500 yards. 500 yards in back-to-back games, first time in franchise history.
Yeah. I don't think you can count out the fact that they're out there with T.Y. McGill and Joe Bacci, Graylin Arnold, Raekwon Williams, Rudy Ford, Marcus Epps, Kayvon Wallace, Jaquette, Jannard Avery, Joe Osman. I don't know. I don't even know what to make of it. They were terrible. The one thing the Cowboys have is a potent passing game. They protected Dalton, he had time. You're out there without Fletcher, without Josh Sweat, without Derek Barnett. I mean, those are your, 3 of your 4 pass rushers, your 4 best pass rushers. And I don't know. I know everybody's fired Jim Schwartz, but to hold them to 30 points, and they got a touchdown at the end, but with the people they had out there, I mean, how many starters were left from opening day? Jalen Mills,
Slay, TJ Edwards, I guess technically.
I guess TJ Edwards, yeah, but
Hargrave he was hurt week 1, but he was a starter.
Right. Did
PG.
Jackson even play today?
Malik, yeah.
I know. I mean, I know he did. I didn't see.
Didn't do much.
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot from him again. But
it seemed like once Fletch went down, that pass rush dried up.
Just totally. It's the words I used in my 10 observations, available now on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com. Yeah, they couldn't get anything. And when you have those guys in secondary, Marcus Epps and Rudy Ford and Michael Jacquet, and Grayland Arnold in your secondary with no pass pressure. I mean, that's going to happen? So
I thought Jim was too late moving Jalen in the corner.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
he had to be a corner after half.
I agree with that. Yeah, he was too slow doing that.
Like, if your move is to say, all right, we'll move you, Jacquet, off of Gallup and put you on Amari Cooper. No, that's not any better.
Right. No, I agree. And again, I don't, everyone's giving me on Twitter because I said, I like Michael Jacquet and I like the way he battled. And I'm not changing my mind. This is an undrafted rookie who was on the practice squad. He wasn't even here, who has played, gone up against some really good corners. And, corners have bad games. And I'm not going to give up on any undrafted rookie after one game. It was pretty bad. I mean, it was just, this is Zell Jenkins-esque. But it doesn't change the fact that he's got some attributes. He's been in some tough situations the last few weeks. And, you give him a training camp and if he sucks, then you cut him. But I like what I saw the first Dallas game, and I like what I saw from him in his first start. So, and you go from there. But
yeah, again, really bad timing to have your entire secondary get hurt against the 2 best receiver trios in the league.
That's very true. And, they've been through so many defensive backs. So I'm still more concerned with the offense. But again, the defense, and it was good to see Slay get a pick. It was the first pick by an Eagles cornerback since Sidney Jones last year. I mean, they need so much talent on that defense. They need so many things.
Yeah, I mean, they need everything.
Everything except CB.
CB1 they're fine, and probably tackle they're fine with Fletch and Hargrave, at least like top end guys for next season. But they need edge help unless you're sold on Sweat being that guy next year. But he's here next year under contract.
Yeah, he's cheap. They could use him.
Yeah,
he's got 1 year left. They need so much on defense. And again, it goes back to Howie and just not getting pieces. They missed more, I think, on offense as far as, the defensive injuries over the last couple of weeks were bad, but they just have no players. They have no players. And Slay's going to be 30 himself, in a couple of months. So it's not like he's a young kid. If you're a football fan, you have to check out the new game Sunday night 7 on the NBC Sports Predictor app. No reason not to play. It's totally free with $2 million in guaranteed cash prizes with $100,000 up for grabs every week. Just make 7 predictions about what will happen on Sunday Night Football for your chance to win some serious money. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app or head to NBCSports.com/predictor to make your Sunday Night 7 picks.
Well, the good news, and this is good news, and it was second level thinking from a lot of fans, but the Eagles have solidified a top 10 draft pick. If they won the division, the best draft pick they could have had was 19. So we're talking about a really big swing here. Right now, they have the number 6 pick. They're actually tied with the Bengals at 5, but the Bengals, it's funny because they have to go through these tiebreakers. First tiebreakers head-to-head, they tied. Second tiebreaker is strength of schedule.
I thought it was net coming average in overtime.
Third is common opponents, and right now, I looked it up tonight. The Bengals are 1-7 against common opponents. The Eagles are 2-6. So right now, the Eagles are in 6. Bengals are in 5. Eagles can move as high as number 3. It'd be tough to move up, honestly, based on the teams ahead of them and their Week 17 opponents. They could move as low as number 10. So really, I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, you got to hope they lose next week.
Yeah, now there's no reason. Now there's no reason to hope they win. 6, there's a big difference between 6 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think if, you really get your elite players in the top 5, obviously with exceptions, but 6 or 7 is a really nice place to be. 10 is a good place to be too. So 6 to 10 you can live with, but I think there's a big difference between 6 and 10, and yeah, go Washington, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird deal. And you look at right now, the teams ahead of them are Houston, which is Miami's pick, Atlanta and Cincinnati. All those teams, Houston plays Tennessee next week, Atlanta plays Tampa Bay, and Cincinnati plays Baltimore. So yeah, that's tough because there are 3 teams that are double-digit win teams, but also teams that will probably still have something to play for.
Yeah. By the way, the Ravens are playing really well.
They are.
Throw that out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this on Tuesday when we do our next podcast, who you think the coach of the year should be, because you can make a case for Sean McDermott. You can make a case for John Harbaugh. You can make a case for Ron Rivera up until today. You can make a case, or you can make a case for Andy Reid. You can't make a case for Doug, but it's funny how the whole Andy Reid coaching tree, they've all done some good things this year. And then you can even throw Kevin Stefanski in there, who is from Philly. So
that's
who I'd probably vote for Sean McDermott, but we'll talk about that later in the week.
Yeah, we can bring that up on Tuesday's pod. You got anything else before we wrap this up?
No, are we going to do Dave's Positivity Corner? Or are we just?
Oh God, I forgot about it. Sure, Positivity Corner. What do you got?
Ooh, I didn't think about this, but I don't think I have a whole lot.
Slay making that pick was big.
Quez, yeah, that was good. Good return too. Quez,
he needed to house it though.
Yeah, he really did. Quez again for the second week did some good things. He looks. I mean, I think nobody really knew what to expect from him and Hightower coming in late round picks. It's, rookies, wide receivers. They don't usually do much. I thought Quez the last couple of weeks has looked like he belongs, which Hightower hasn't done. Even when he's catching 50-yard passes, he didn't look like he belonged. But he's been. That's one. I don't even know if I have another one. I'm
trying to think if there's anything on defense.
There's nobody.
Vinny Curry had a sack.
Vinny had a sack. Might be playing his last game as an Eagle Sunday.
Nothing against Vinny, but you would hope so.
Yeah, that's true. He's been a good Eagle. He's part of a championship team, and I think he'll always be. Nobody doesn't like Vinny, so yeah. There'll be
a lot of those guys next week. Honestly, probably some really all-time great Eagles playing their last game.
Yeah, we can talk about. Let's talk about that. That'll be a good thing to get into on a pod later in the week. But I don't have anyone for the Positivity Corner other than Quez. That's it.
You know what? We'll leave it there. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, do us a favor. Please rate.
Jake Elliott made a field goal.
And subscribe wherever you get. He should have been punting too because Cameron Johnston hit a 17-yarder. Please rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate that. Let's wrap it up. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you guys soon.